In this lecture, we're going to see an example of what looks like an infinite loop, and we're going to design a terminal-based or console-based calculator. And the code is going to look something like this. And again, the main point here is how we are going to control for this loop here to end. So here we have a few variables on top. We have a character variable, which is going to contain the operation we want to do. We're going to have two double variables. One is going to be operand 1, the other is going to be operand 2. And it is basically the numbers on which we're going to be doing our operation. Then we have a bool variable called end, which is going to control when our loop here ends. And we initialize this to false. So once we get here, we're going to be using a while loop to do this. We're going to loop as long as end equals to false. So the first time end is going to be false, so this is going to evaluate to true, and we're going to fall in the body of the loop. We're going to do whatever processing we need to do, but this is really not very important for now. So it is commented out for now, but we're going to see how this works exactly when we get to play with us in Visual Studio Code. But for now, I really want you to focus on how this loop is going to end. After we do whatever processing we need to do, we're going to ask the user, do you want to continue? Then the user is given the option to answer with a Y to mean yes or an N to mean no. And we're going to capture the input from the user. So the user is going to type Y or N, and we're going to capture that in this character variable that is called go on. You see here we say stdcin to get input from the user. We have seen how this works in an earlier chapter, and we're going to store that in this go on variable. And then we're going to do a test on this variable to see what is inside. If what we have inside is an uppercase Y or a lowercase y, we're going to know that the user wants to go on. They want to keep using this program here, and they basically want this loop to keep running. So we're going to set end to false so that the loop keeps going. The next time it's going to evaluate what is in this end variable here. And if the user says no, they basically want the loop to end. They want the program to end. They don't want to go on. So we're going to set end to true so that when we get to re-evaluate this, the test condition is going to evaluate to false and the loop is going to stop. And this is basically how we're going to control how this program ends. Okay, here you see that we used if to do this, but we can also use a ternary operator. But I don't want to use that because sometimes it is confusing to students. So we're going to stick to this extended if statement here. Now that you have this idea of the calculator we're going to build, let's head over to Visual Studio Code and actually do this. Okay, here we are in our working folder. The current project is Infinite Loop Practice. So we're going to grab our template files and we're going to go inside the current project and put in the files. We're going to open this in Visual Studio Code as we always do, Infinite Loop Practice. And we're going to open up our main CPP file. We're going to remove whatever it is we don't need in here. And we are going to put in the code we want to play with. This is a relatively long piece of code, so I'm not going to type this out. But I encourage you to check the resource section of this lecture, and you're going to find a link that is going to show you all this code, and you can copy it and paste it in here and play with it. We are going to put it in, and we're going to try and explain it because it's a lot of code. We have 60 lines of codes, and if I type this, that would be really a long time, and I don't want to spend this time typing this thing here. So what we have is our variables. This is going to store the operation we want to do in this calculator. Again, we are designing a terminal-based calculator, and we're going to be able to do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division with it. And our operands are going to be of double type, as you see here. So the operations are going to be plus, minus, multiplication, using this star sign here. And we're going to be doing division just like this. So we're going to be storing our operands in these two variables here. And this boolean called AND is going to control when our loop here ends. And you see we do the exact same thing we had in the slide. So we're going to keep looping as long as AND equals to false. And if we get in the body, we're going to ask the user what operation they want to do. We're going to tell them the possible operations, so addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. And we're going to tell them to print their operation. We're going to grab the operation and store that in our operation variable. Remember that this is a character, so it's going to store this as a character. And then we're going to tell the user to print whatever operands they want to do operation on. And we're going to do a chained stdcin. The first number they type is going to be stored in operand 1. The second number they type is going to be stored in operand 2. After we have these numbers, we're going to do a switch statement. And we are basically going to be checking what kind of operation they want to do. And we're going to do that operation. So for case plus here, we're going to do operand 1 plus operand 2 equals operand 1 plus operand 2. We're going to say that in our stdcout statement here. So let's bring this a little bit to the right so that we see the entire thing. And for the case of the minus sign, we're going to do operand 1 minus operand 2, and we're going to do the operation in here. And to make it really clear, we should try and wrap these guys in parentheses, because this is going to make what you want to do pretty clear, and you reduce chances for your operation here to conflict with this stream output operators here, and that's going to be really better. So we're going to put our parentheses here, and if we want to do multiplication, we are basically going to multiply the numbers and print that out. If we want to do division, we're going to take operand 1 divided by operand 2, and we're going to print the result here. And we're going to hit the default case when the user typed something that is neither plus, minus, multiplication, or division here, and we're going to hit this case, and we're going to say that operation is not supported. We can really put a break here, or we can leave it out. It's not going to make a difference, but for completeness, let's put this here to make sure it is consistent with what we've done all along here. And after we have printed the result of the operation, we're going to need to ask the user if they want to go on or stop the calculator altogether. We're going to ask them if they want to continue, and we're going to tell them you can either say yes by typing a Y or a no with an N. We're going to grab whatever they type in this character, go on, and we're going to do a few tests on this. We're going to say if the user typed a Y, uppercase or lowercase, we're going to know that they want to move on with the application. And we don't want to set the AND variable to a true, because we want the program to keep running. We want this to keep evaluating to a false. So we're going to store in a false to keep the loop running. I really hope this makes sense. And if they didn't type a Y, we're going to know that they actually typed in a N, and we're going to set the end variable to true so that our loop ends when the next iteration of the loop is evaluated here. So if the user types N and is going to be true, this is going to evaluate to false, so the loop is going to stop immediately. And when that happens, we're going to go at the end of this while loop here. So we're going to go to the closing curly brace for the loop, and that's going to be this guy here. And we're going to fall down here and say done, helping out, bye. The program is going to stop. This may be confusing for beginners if it is the first time you do a program that is this big, but try to take it in little pieces and you're going to understand. And if you have a problem, you can ask me. I will do the best I can to help you out. For now, we're going to bring up a terminal and build this with GCC as we always do. You're going to see that the build is going to be good. So when the build is done, we should have rooster.exe generated in our directory. You're going to see that we have it here. So we can clear and actually run it. So we can clear and actually run this. We're going to run rooster. It's going to say, welcome to Awesome Calculator. What operation do you want help with? It's going to tell us the possible options. And please choose one and type below. So we're going to say we want to do addition. We're going to type in a plus. It's going to ask us to type in two operands separated by a space and hit enter. We're going to do that. Let's say we want to add a 10 and a 20. If we hit enter, it's going to say 10 plus 20 is 30. And it's going to ask if we want to continue. Let's say yes, we want to continue. We're going to put in the lowercase y. We have tested for this, so this is going to work. It's going to ask again the operation we want to do because the loop is going to evaluate again and see if it should continue. It's going to see that it should continue. And then it's going to print this again. Okay, it's going to ask the user what operation they want to do. It's going to ask the operands. And the same cycle is going to repeat over and over. So we are going to come back to our terminal here and say the operation we want to do is multiplication this time. We're going to specify 3, for example, and 9. We're going to hit enter. 3 times 9 is 27. We can keep going on, but for now I am going to say no. And you're going to see that the program is done helping out and it is saying goodbye. And this is really what I wanted you to see in this lecture, that we can do something that looks like an infinite loop, but we're going to allow the user to control how it ends by typing stuff on the console. And you can use the same concept to really do any kind of application on the console. The main thing you're going to need to do is to design how you want your program to end, and you're going to give meaningful messages to your users to let them end the program when they want to do that. And again, I realize this may be a slightly complicated program, but I really wanted you to see how many of the things we've learned about can actually be combined into a program that is slightly useful. And I hope this wasn't too confusing and it was actually encouraging you to keep pushing your knowledge further, because now you have a lot of tools you can use in C++ to do some interesting things. We are going to stop here in this lecture. In the next one, we're going to learn about decrementing loops. Go ahead and finish up here and meet me there.